Hello, everyone. Welcome to Inspiring Canada. My name is Colton. I'm 24 years old. I live in Calgary, Alberta. And this is Kim from Empowered Life. Welcome.
Thanks, Colton. So great to be here with you again.
How are you doing today?
I am doing great. How are you?
I am pretty good, thank you. So what are we here to talk about?
We're going to talk about grief because there's so much of it happening in the world right now. And I think people don't necessarily have a real, thorough understanding of what grief is. So hopefully we can fix that today.
Very true. It took me a long time to figure out what my grief was. Some of it's even hidden, so I wasn't sure what to deal with. Okay, so I have some questions for you.
Sure.
Um, Sorry, I should have been more prepared for this.
It's all good.
Can you define or explain what grief is? I'm not sure exactly what it is.
You know what? That's such a good question because a lot of people, when they hear the word grief, I think they automatically think of, the experience we have when we lose someone, when someone passes away, which is very, very true. But grief can come from so many other different losses. So the definition of grief, there's two kind of parts to it. So first of all, grief is the normal and natural reaction to loss. Okay, that could be loss of a loved one, a pet, job. There's so many different things that we can lose, right? The other thing that grief is, it's a result of the conflicting feelings that we have from change in familiar patterns or behaviors, which COVID is a huge cause of grief right now, right? Not being able to go to the gym or go to yoga or go to school or go to work, having to work from home, right? These, not being able to do the things we're used to doing, and these changes in routine and restrictions. There is so much grief that we are experiencing right now. We just don't always identify what we're feeling with as grief. We often think of it as, sadness, anger, depression, anxiety, which are all symptoms of grief.
Very true, very true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely miss going to the gym a lot. It's been
Too.
closed for a month now.
Yeah.
Hope it opens up in the new year so I can start working out again. It was a huge stress reliever.
And you're so right. I mean, there's especially these things that we do in our life to reduce stress. To not have access to them is causing, a tremendous amount of grief for sure. What other
Yeah,
questions do you have for me?
throws a lot of people off for sure. So the next question I have is, what are some of the other losses or changes that can create grief? Like I know loss is one and death is one, but what are some other ones?
Yeah, so some of the ones I mentioned, like loss of a loved one, loss of a pet, losing a job, um, even the experiences of, for example, when you graduate high school, it's kind of an exciting time, but it can kind of be a really sad time too, because all of a sudden you're not going to have that connection to those friends, right? Or retirement, same kind of thing, a change in life. It could be loss of health, right? If you're maybe an athlete and you have an injury that results in you not being able to do your favorite sport or activity, there's a loss there, which can result in grief. It can be also defined as, situations, especially unresolved grief, where we have regret, anger, resentments, those sort of things, right? That's all indicators of unresolved grief. We as a society have not really been taught how to deal with our emotional health. And everything roots to emotions. Every single experience we have creates either happy, sad, anger, whatever the emotion is, right? But
True.
we're not very good at dealing with the uncomfortable or unpleasant feelings or emotions. And we're actually taught to avoid and distract. And a lot of people think, well, how do we do that? Think about this. I know most of us have been parented this way, and I parented this way. And it's just because we do what we know, right? And we're doing the best we can in our mind. But when when a child is suffering, or when even from, a baby who falls and bumps their head or bumps their knee, the first thing we do is we rush in and we rub the knee, rub the head, hug, kiss, and oh, it'll be okay, don't cry, right? Which that act is kind, and the intentions are really good, but it actually sends a message saying don't feel the pain. And as time goes on, we get more hurt, especially emotionally. We have that big first breakup or bullied at school, and we come home sad or scared or angry or whatever. And, often it's like, well, let's go have some cookies. Let's go shopping. Again, let's do whatever we can to not feel the pain. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So most of us are never really taught how to deal with this. And this is why we have so much unresolved grief. And everybody does. I'm still working on a lot of my unresolved grief. Grief can also be, reaching out for someone who has always been there, only to find when you need them again, they're not there, right? And that would be in the case where somebody has passed on,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe there's just been a big falling out in the relationship and there's no communication anymore. The other experience of grief is same but different, that feeling of reaching out for someone who's never been there, only to reach out one more time and they're still not there, right? This case, maybe, a parent who has not been absent, or a friend who has just never really been that friend that's been there, those sorts of things, right? So
For
there
sure.
really are so many different causes of grief. Again, COVID, creating so many of them too. Illness, we're seeing death, we're seeing these change in familiar patterns of behaviors. And so I think it's really important for people to understand what grief really is, right? We often just think about, well, this is causing me anxiety, this is causing me depression, I'm feeling anger. Again, those are symptoms of grief, right? And that's kind of the big problem in my mind with society, is we often tend to treat the symptoms rather than just dealing with the root cause and really bringing resolution to the problem. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. You explained it really well. Wow.
Good. I've been teaching it a lot, and doing a lot of the work myself. So I feel very fortunate to have a deep understanding of grief and emotional health, and how to heal and take care of my emotional health, and then to be able to share and to teach this with others is amazing, because it's just so needed right now.
Incredible. I
Yeah.
love it. So what is the grief recovery? How do you recover from grief?
Great question. So I'm a certified grief recovery specialist with the Grief Recovery Institute. And, I've been doing this work and studying emotional health and healing for quite a long time, probably about 10 years. But it wasn't until I really got to connect through the Grief Recovery Institute and do their programs and their trainings, where I really found kind of that missing piece. I was doing a lot of healing work and recovering from my own, different struggles and challenges and traumas in life. And while it was successful, there was just something missing. I wasn't quite feeling this completeness, right? We often talk about closure. From the Grief Recovery Institute perspective, we like to choose our words a little differently. Rather than closure, we like to say completeness, because closure kind of gives this sense of we're going to just, shut it up, put it away, it's done, we never deal with it again, right? Whereas completeness is basically, through recovery, we're completing the relationship to the pain so that the relationship can move forward in a better way. And that's whether the person is still alive or if they've passed on, or whatever the situation is. So the program, it's a very specific, detailed program. And this is why it works. So first of all, it's a 7-week program. It can be done in person or online, which is great, considering now so many of us are having to social distance and isolate. To be able to do something like this online, especially if we've got extra time on our hands, it's fantastic. So this 7-week program, we work with the Grief Recovery Handbook. And we start to, first of all, learn about emotions and how we were taught to deal with our emotions, and maybe recognizing where we may have been misled, not intentionally again, but just where we may have been misled with some of our interpretations of what grief is and how to actually, deal with or communicate about unpleasant emotions. Then part of the program is identifying your loss history graph. So everything from the time you were born until today, all the losses, the situations where you had grief, right? Whether it was losing a grandparent, a pet, having to move to a new city or having to go to a new school, not being able to do that sport you love anymore, whether it's a relationship breakup or a divorce or, anything and everything, because we've all had stuff happen, right? So we
Mhm.
identify our whole loss timeline. Each of those events will be connected to another person, either, a mom, a dad, our partner or an ex-partner. Make sense so far?
For sure.
Then what we're going to do is we're going to choose one relationship. So maybe you choose the relationship with your mom or your dad or your partner or your ex. And then we create a relationship graph where we identify all the different things from the time that relationship started to today, of, those events, those situations where there was those unpleasant experiences, right? Where we felt hurt, where we felt let down, or where maybe we we're on the other side of that. We kind of let someone down, or those losses, right? Whether the relationship ended or whatever it was. And then from there, we apply recovery components, which the 3 recovery components are apologies, forgivenesses, and what we call significant emotional statements. Unresolved grief is often about the things that we never said, or that we wish we would have said or done differently, or that we feel
Mhm.
need to be heard again, right? So most of us, because we haven't been taught how to deal with our emotions, we just kind of suppress, avoid, distract, and everything just kind of sits there undealt with, right? So this process allows us to bring all this stuff out to the surface and then to deliver those communications about each thing. So it ends in basically writing a letter to the person, which we never read to the person, because all of this stuff is really not about that person. It's about us and our experiences and our emotions.
So making advance and stuff.
It is, and it's freedom. It really is freedom. And I can tell you, and I'm still working on mine. I've done a few relationships, and I'm still working on one, because once you go through the program and you do that first relationship, you understand the process, and then you
Mhm.
have your timeline to just go back and keep working on the next relationship. So again, it's a 7-week process, and it's laid out that way so that we can kind of gently ease into it, get comfortable working with myself, or if we're doing a group, working with your partner, and taking the time to really pull stuff to the surface. We've all had stuff happen, right? We've all had some sort of traumas, some more than others, and guaranteed
Mhm.
most of us have a lot of unresolved stuff. I like to explain it to, if you think about a garden, okay, and if you've got a garden full of weeds, if you just go along and cut the weeds off at the surface, those weeds are going to grow back, right? But if
Mhm.
you actually get into your garden and pull the roots out, the chances of those weeds coming back are slim to none. Okay. Our unresolved grief is like weeds in our body, all that unprocessed, unresolved emotion and grief, right? Um, so when we're, looking for the food, looking for the shopping, the alcohol, whatever it is to distract, it feels better temporarily. It's like, oh, I got this nice clean garden, but no, you don't, right? Because we know we get triggered and those roots come back, right? And they come back until we actually go through the process to pull those weeds. We're not going to have that freedom.
For sure.
So it's really about, yeah, getting everything out and, finally completing that relationship to the pain. And once those communications are delivered, it's amazing how the relationship changes, even if it's a relationship with someone who has passed on. Sometimes we wish we would have said those things, or I wish I would have apologized for that, right? By being able to deliver those communications, it just gives us freedom. And I can tell you that because it worked for me, with my son who passed away, as you know, last November, of overdose. And this program just has been tremendous. And the reason why I decided to become certified and share this with other people. But even relationships where the person may still be alive, the relationship changes just by you doing the work, even if that person doesn't do anything. It's quite powerful.
Mm.
Yeah.
Wow, that's wonderful. I like that analogy of the weeds for
Yeah.
sure. I'm sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
Um, okay, so what if I am a person struggling with grief and want to recover? I hear you have a program. Do you want to explain that more?
Yeah. So the 7-week program that I was just kind of talking about, that's the one that I offer. So it can all be done on Zoom, just like you and I are chatting here. Um, I mail out the book to you that we work through. There's homework each week. And I just support you through the whole process. And I'm not telling you what to do. It's you doing the work, right? Because, it has to be you or the person who is taking the program to do the work, right? You got to pull the weeds. I can't pull them for you, but I can support you and guide you through it, right? And yeah, it can be done, any days, any times, weekends. We just kind of find a schedule that works best for us. And we go through the 7 weeks until completion. The other way I like to explain it, you liked the weed analogy. And again, just to maybe give you a bit more sense of the responsibility that you would have. I actually just shared a post about this earlier today, but if you imagined you're holding, tons of grocery bags in your hands, because I like
Mm-hmm.
to make one trip, not 5, right? So I'll load up my bags. And if you're sitting there with your bags and all of a sudden $100 bills come falling down in front of you, what are you going to do? You're going to let go of those bags and you're going to pick up that money, right? Why
Of
not?
course.
So those bags, think about those bags representing unresolved grief. Okay. And that money coming down is opportunities, whether it's opportunity for a new relationship, a better relationship, a new job, whatever goals you want. Until you let go of that, you're not allowing yourself to bring anything new in or to be able to attract that or pick it up. Does that make sense?
For sure.
Yeah. I like to use that analogy a lot too. Yeah. Sometimes you got to create some space for new things to come in. And if we've been just, for years and years, just suppressing and holding and storing, and at some point, it's full in here,
Mm,
right? And if we keep doing that, we get to a point where it just starts to explode inside, right? And we create chaos.
yeah.
And that's often where we look for, bigger distractions, something stronger to get rid of anything to deal with that pain, right? So by letting go of that, bringing it to the surface, letting it go, and completing it, we open ourselves up to so much abundance in so many ways.
Wonderful.
Again, I can tell you that from experience. It's been just hugely transformational for me.
I can imagine.
Yeah. I also, and our timing for this is so great. It's Christmas, almost Christmas, and we have COVID going on. And even outside of COVID, there's so much stress around Christmas, right? We see depression go up, anxiety. It's just a really difficult time for people. And then you add COVID on top of it this year, and it's really challenging for a lot of people, especially those who, don't have any idea how to deal with all of these weeds, right? So I did release a free resource. I think I called it 21 Ways to Survive COVID Christmas. And it's a lot of different tips and tricks. Actually, it's everything that I do daily that has helped me to get to where I am today and all the healing and the recovery, and just to be in such a great space and, to prepare you to move into a new year that can be successful. In that whole, what am I calling it, project, I guess, that I released, there also is a big discount in there for the grief recovery program. So that is on until December 31st. So if anybody is interested, first of all, I hope everybody will click the link that I hope we'll share to get access to that free resource. And for those that want to go a little further and really pull those weeds and find that freedom, again, at the bottom of that, there is a big discount on the grief recovery 7-week program. So I would be honored to help anybody on their recovery journey, especially going into a new year.
Awesome. That sounds like a wonderful resource. And might take advantage of it.
Yeah, it's been incredible for me. So, and my passion is about helping people. Um, and I can honestly say, you know, my whole journey and the recovery is what led me to finding what I believe is my purpose and what I'm passionate about. Again, which is just helping people. Right? Empowered Life is all about helping people move from suffering to empowerment, and this program is definitely one of the best. And I
Awesome.
thank you so much for allowing me to share and to get a chance to connect with you, because we haven't chatted for a while, and I miss seeing everybody. So it's great to connect with you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's been a while. Well, do you have any questions for me?
You know what? I don't at the moment, but I love following you because you are so inspiring, and I know you've had an incredible year, and I'm so proud of you for all the work you've done and for sharing your journey with everybody. I know a lot of people are really inspired by that. So I just want to say I hope you keep continuing to share, and I love any of these opportunities that we get to work together. So thank you again for that, and Merry Christmas to you and to anyone and everyone else watching, and all the best for 2021.
For sure. Thank you so much, Kim. And while I'm at it on video, I'm just going to remind people that there is a free resource out there for people who want to connect over the holidays. If you're lonely, if you're grieving, if you are struggling with relationships or whatnot, there's this site called sevencups.com. I volunteer on there, and it's a great place to unload. It's in chat form, it's private. You can just chat whoever you want, talk about whatever you want. If you just want to vent, go for it. But yeah, so check it out if you're wanting to connect. Um, that's it for now. Thank you very much, and hope everyone has a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thanks, Colton. Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Merry
See ya.
Christmas.
Merry Christmas.